ChäoS child. In the last episode, Takuru and Sarika were able to shadow Hanai Arimura and Detective Shinjo. And just ignore the community tab screen there. Never mind. Anyway, as I was saying, Takuru was able to learn a little bit more about Hanai Arimura's situation. Especially the fact that, surprisingly, she and Kakita, the victim of the third incident, were in fact close acquaintances, or rather, he was an acquaintance of her brother, which is how they knew each other. But they actually seemed on fairly good terms, judging from Hanai's, expression and conversation. But sadly for Detective Shinjo, he wasn't able to learn any more than that, because as Hanai has been consistently attesting, she has absolutely no memory of what happened before, during, and after the incident. Which, Shinjo isn't happy about, but there isn't really a lot he can do about that. But, safe to say that Takuru and Sarika managed to get some useful intel. But now we're jumping forward to October the 6th, which means we have 4 days left until the next incident. 9 p.m. Ominous. In front of Shibuya Station. Something is afoot. The place was as crowded and noisy as ever. The footsteps of people rushing to the station to get home after work. The voices of people talking into their phones about where to meet for drinks. The screams of joy as old friends were reunited, as opposed to other kinds of screams. It all blended together, and it all had an effect on anyone who passed through it, even for a moment. I'm actually liking the decor here of Shibuya Station. This is quite nice. 6 years after the Shibuya quake, the city had been rebuilt to the point where there was nothing left to remind you of it. Everything was up and running again. Until a few years ago, many people would stop and stare and wonder at how everything was new. But not anymore. The slogan of the restoration efforts, Shibuya, a city reborn, had such an effect on people that the past was beginning to be forgotten. Unfortunately, the past won't let itself be forgotten. Otherwise, we would not be here. At least, for people who weren't in Shibuya during the earthquake. What about the people beforehand? What about them? Just a 1-minute walk away from the station. Whose perspective are we looking at anyway? Or maybe no one's perspective. Maybe not. Anyway. From the station was the Shibuya Earthquake Memorial, a simple obelisk placed here to commemorate that. Oh, and it's none other than Nono Kurusu. It's been a while since we've seen you around. Kurusu made sure to visit once every week. She would put a flower down by the name of her best friend from elementary school and pray silently. I genuinely have no words, no condolences, nothing to say to this. It was only a short distance from the heart of the city, but the noise and commotion didn't reach this place. This place was somberly constructed and pure, as if it wanted to be separated from all that. as does Kurusu. Today was October 6th. The quake was on November 6th, so this was the same day of the month. Maybe that's why there were so many flowers. Some of them were lying scattered on the ground. There was no one around. You know, I can picture my Yorishina standing next to Nono Kurusu. And of course, for those of you who have followed me during my Steins Gate LP, you will understand why I'm making that reference. Sometimes people would come at around 10:30 p.m. when the earthquake struck, but other than that, the place was mostly empty at night. Kurusu went around the area, grabbing up all the scattered flowers she could see and putting them on a nearby dais. How very considerate and thoughtful. She'd done it many times before. It was all part of her routine.
どうすればいいかな?
She's still pondering on whether she was right to try and stop Takuru or whether she was right to let him go. Kurusu was thinking about what had happened a few days before, and about her younger brother Miyashiro. Although, of course, as we know by now, they're not technically siblings. They simply grew up together in the same orphanage.
あなた、殺されますよ。宮代拓先輩。
Ah. So Takuru wasn't the only one who heard that. Kurusu did as well. She'd heard it clearly. Hanai Arimura had said those words to Miyashiro. Now, one thing I'm going to note is, is the whole thing with Japanese honorifics and everything. And especially Japanese names, when they're introduced, it's usually the last name, given first, and then followed by the given first name second. But I don't want to be culturally insensitive, but I just want to, for the sake of my own consistency. Otherwise, I'm just going to get confused over everything. I hope you understand, viewers. No, that was impossible. There was no way her brother was about to get caught up in something because of what he'd learned. No, by that I mean you're not wrong, Kurusu. I think he's caught up before that. He was already involved in this over the past 6 years. Something's going on. A sudden wind blew the flowers out of her hand. They scattered away from her. Oh dear. Unfortunate. But it happens. All she could do was watch. For a moment she tried to reach out and grab them, but her hand clawed uselessly at the air. Before the feelings overwhelmed her, she turned toward the place where her friend's name was carved.
Ne.
And pray tell, what is the name of this friend? She rubbed it gently. The familiar sensation came to her through her fingers.
どうすればいいかな。
Whole bunch of Japanese kanji inscribed on the memorial plaque. And I'm sure some of you out there might A, be Japanese, or B, know how to read Japanese kanji, but unfortunately I don't, so I can't tell you the names that these kanji represent, or anything else for that matter. But the name, Senri Minamisawa, Minamisawa, just echoed the question back to her.
うん、いいんじゃないか。珍しくいいアングルだ。
And we're back with Takuru, surprisingly.
お前な、言っとくけどかなりめんどくさかったんだぞこれ。
So looks like Shinji was able to install that camera after all.
どっかにくくりつけたのか？
なんか壁にくっついてる鉄パイプみたいなやつにな。
At least we'll be able to see anyone who passes by and hopefully find anyone suspicious. Also, liking the background on Takuru's laptop there. That's really spectacular. Just thought I'd point that out.
違う、それきっと雨どいだ。屋根に溜まった雨水を。
I don't think Shinji cares about what it's called.
どうでもいい。くくりつけるのに使ったバンドやらは自腹切ったんだからな。明日払えよ。
I don't think rubber bands are that expensive.
設置する場所はそっちが勝手に。
言い出しっぺはそっちだろ、宮代部長。
I think on a good day, Takuru might salivate at the idea of being called President Miyashiro, but not today. Grr.
言っとくけど、データの回収はみんなで持ち回りだからな。
Rotation shifts. That's actually pretty smart.
わかってるよ。
Even if Takuru disagrees,
てか、それもいちいち面倒なんだよな。中継式のは手に入らなかったのか？
so, Okay, that is a slight
高いん
inconvenience.
だよ。
But then again, so is the price tag. And if we try to do wireless from there all the way to Hekio or this place, that'd be a huge pain. Indeed it would.
そっちは？有村さんだよ。会えたのか？
In a manner of speaking, we did. Undercover, of course. I guess. It depends on how you look at it.
明日話すよ。結構面白い情報が手に入ったから。
Indeed, interesting is pretty much the only way you could describe it.
なんだよ、今言えよ。
Of course, unlike Takuru, Shinji is a glutton for gossip. Alas.
そろそろ渋谷ニュースの放送が始まるんだよ。
Let's see what interesting things K has to say.
え？
At least
今日放送あるのか？
if I'm remembering right. You should have been more careful.
ちゃんと全部チェックしとけよ。今日の更新文の最後に書いてあったぞ、伊藤部員。
やがましい。
He hung up on me, angrily. I put the phone down and checked the time. About 5 more minutes. I opened Shibuya News and waited for the broadcast to start. After that, Arimura had waited about an hour before she'd come out of Cafe LAX. Was I once again note that we did not learn the name of the mystery magical girl waitress whatsoever. Something tells me we're not going to. I thought about pretending to run into her, but I didn't want to go up to her too fast and have her find out I was listening. As I waited for the right moment, she got in a taxi and left. Oh well. She was probably heading to the Shibuya police station for an interrogation, because that's what Shinjo basically told her to do. This was amazing. Not the phrase I would use. I wasn't able to talk to Arimura, but I knew I managed to get more important information. That is true. There was a lot about their conversation I didn't understand, but I was right about one thing. The police were treating the incidents, or at least revolving dead, as murders.
いや、警察はじゃないのかもしれない。
Seems Takuru is coming to the same conclusion that Hanai did, that the police themselves are deliberately trying to drag their feet, and it's only a certain someone that is trying to nudge them in the right direction. That detective, Shinjo, was it? He seemed to be acting separately from the rest of the police force. It also helps when you have an outside source. And he had some kind of secret about it that he shared with Arimura. But more importantly than that, and most importantly than anything,
会話に出てきたシールっていうのは歴史シールのことだ。
it had to be. Although, didn't exactly get a good look at it, to be honest. From what he'd been saying, I was sure of it. And while he knew about the sumo stickers, he didn't seem to realize their importance. But Hanai did. Maybe he hadn't realized that they were at the other 2 crime scenes. Good. I really was one step ahead of the police. For the time being. For the time being.
やっぱり、これはまたとないチャンスなんだ。
Seems like Takuru is caught up in the euphoria of all this. If I kept it up, I might be able to learn more about the case than anyone else. Even more, well, there is one person who would elude you on that front, and that is the people behind it. More than the ignorant kids getting ready for the festival. More than the people who had to cling to the internet for information. More than even the police. But not the killers, as I just said. More than Kawahara, that jerk who called me a pretend reporter, and more than the rest of the class who called me a camera kid. Putting your own ego into this is a bad idea.
情弱を全員見返してやれ。
It's gonna lead you into trouble.
はい。2015年10月7日0時になりました。皆様、ようこそいらっしゃいませ。K さんと申します。
And it is K. I was right, as my memory wasn't failing me. It's now midnight October 7th, 2015, indeed. But, You know what? Have a bit of a listen. Shibuya News' net radio started just like it said it would. Kei's voice was as pleasant and clear as ever. The last broadcast was after the Love Hotel incident, so it would have been September 30th. It had been about a week. So what has Kei discovered this time?
まとわりつく暑さはもうなくなりましたね。発表されている通りならしばらくは過ごしやすい気温になると思いますが、いかがお過ごしでしょうか。
Seems like summer is finally dissipating. As I listened to her voice read out all the latest information from Shibuya, I grabbed a magazine off a cabinet shelf. Think I know which one it is. It was a back issue of Cool Cat Fresh that I bought, or rather I've been forced to buy from Gen. You mean Twist Your Arm? Just like with Kei's broadcast, it had been a while since I'd spent any time with this. And it's a good thing that Seriko is not here, or else he wouldn't do this. I paged through it looking for an interesting article. It was still mostly junk. 10 ways to make your ideal girl like you, how to tell your ideal girl you like her, what to say to your ideal girl to get her into your bed, etc. Yeah, there were a lot of articles that were of no interest to me whatsoever. Nope, none at all. Not a one. As I carefully read through these articles, which did not interest me at all, I found a small section in the back that was something a little different. Rorschach will reveal her naked heart. How to know exactly what she's thinking. The article consisted of strange symmetrical drawings in black ink, along with commentary from a psychoanalyst about what each said about your personality. So it's Carl Jung mixed with the occult of some kind. Or at least it was someone who claimed to be a psychoanalyst. That is true. And at the very end there were even diagrams on how to use these pictures to see how popular you were or how compatible you were with a certain girl.
もう何でもありだな、この本。
I whispered to myself. The Rorschach test was a famous personality test. Let's have a clearer definition. Oh god, this is a long one. A famous type of projective personality test invented by a Swiss psychologist. A projective test is one which gives the subject a stimulus which can be interpreted in multiple ways and uses their response to learn more about what they're thinking or who they are. In the Rorschach test, ink is dripped onto a paper which is then folded to create a symmetrical image. The image is then shown to the test subject and their response is recorded. Rorschach images always come in a set of 10 cards, and the use of these sets requires a great deal of knowledge and skill. Much research has been done on the use of Rorschach cards since their invention, and their use continues today. So it also incorporates an element of tarot interpretations as well. Interesting. But ultimately pointless. And I'm actually going to call this an episode. I know it's a bit short, but then again, this is pretty much a filler after everything that's been happening. And it's usually nice to sort of take a break from doing hour-long episodes, constantly. But I'm going to leave you here for the time being, adventurers, and when we return, we shall listen to Kei's broadcast on Shibuya News. As always, until next we meet.